Okay, this is probably going to be the first of the event sections that you're ever going to do in this game. This is also actually from the demo that was available at MCM Expo, and most of the event sections were quite similar. You usually shoot the stars to increase gauge or shoot the targets. Robbing there also increase extra gauge, which shortens the this event section here. The hit detection can be a bit weird sometimes, so just be careful. Basically, the quicker you fill this up, the more time that you have to do you get in the event section. Then you get a max amount of time, depending on how much you filled the gauge. It's not a case of how quickly; it's a case of how much. So that time on the right hand side will tell you basically how much time you've gotten from the previous section. We'll give you a certain amount of time here, and then you get a certain threshold of how many times to do that. So usually each event sections are split up into two. So you've got a shooting section, and a section that uses up the touchpad. And the touchpad section is usually a little bit more difficult depending on the action it's asking you to do. Like personally for me, the rotating ones are usually the hardest. But for stuff like push and pull, it's a lot easier. When the little icon with the heart comes up, usually you have to do the action that the game is telling you to do on the touchpad. Oh, and the more you hit whichever girl you're working on, in this case Shinobu, the lower rating you get. So you do have a very kind of threshold of how much you can do. So you don't like immediately like lose a perfect when you if you hit her. But if the more you hit her, the harder, the more likely is that you get ranked down. Okay, I usually get 10 there, so that's not too bad. Right, so this we're going to go into the last phase. There's usually 3 or 3 in each one. And then the amount of stars I have to shoot in a set also gains higher with each stage. It gives you a gauge bonus whenever you could shoot a whole set of icons. But in Shinobu's case, she moves around a lot more in this section. Like that. There we go. Left that a little bit late, but Shinobu was moving a lot, so there's not much I can do. There we go. And that's usually enough to get you a perfect. On the later event stages, it's a little harder because the requirements are slightly more difficult. But for the most part, it tends to be it tends to usually follow the same conditions. Unlike the original Galgun, where you had to do very, very specific actions to complete a challenge. So, but this game sort of streamlines a lot of it, so makes a lot of them quite similar, but just changes the difficulty for each one. Whether you find that good or not is depending up to you. Personally, I prefer the original Galgun's challenges because they were quite diverse, like making songs and standing in poses and shooting targets. Where this one's a lot more streamlined. So if there was a couple, if there was a couple like this, then it'll be fine. But alas, I think they've made it easier. So it's a much more of an easier game to import in that sense.